does the music end? So we start, well, 15 seconds in advance, I believe. So good morning, everyone. This is another Friday morning. It's time for, well, Crunchfish, the survival of the fittest, where we meet and talk about, well, mostly about digital cash, and definitely we will do it today. So very welcome wherever you are sitting. Today it will be about digital cash, India. And we have, I believe this might be the best webinar ever, because we have the most talented people with us from India. Good morning, Gagan Kaushal.
Good morning, Johan. How are you?
Good morning. I'm fine. And then we have Vijay Raghunathan. Is that almost right?
Almost right.
So please
good,
help
actually.
me.
Yeah.
Please help me. What's
Good morning.
Well, I believe Vijay was quite right, but
I think we should stick to that. That's easy enough to, because the other one is not easy.
yeah, but actually, I think Samuelsson is quite, well, that's quite tricky as well. Samuelsson. Is that right, Joachim?
Yeah, I think you got it right.
Well, thank you. I'm so glad to meet you all. I know you are you're preparing to take care of. We have a Swedish representative going to India soon. Are you prepared to take care of him?
Yeah, we
yes,
think
absolutely.
so.
Yeah, it's Joachim.
Yes.
Where will you go? Where will you go?
Yeah, it will be the same round trip as 2 years ago. It will be Delhi, it will be Mumbai, and it will be Bengaluru or Bangalore.
Yeah,
so it's the same trip as I did sort of 2 years ago.
Yeah, and when are you leaving?
Tomorrow, 4:15 from Copenhagen via Doha to Delhi.
Okay, great. So just let's talk about, well, for example, temperatures. We can hear you're smiling, but Joachim is not. We can hear about, it's very hot in India. Can you give us some? I know it's, well, you're used to the hot, but look at him. Well, how many days will he cope with that? I believe it's. I'm a bit worried. Can you just tell us about how the situation? Because we hear it's quite extreme now. Vijay.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is extreme, but I'm sure by the time Joachim goes back, he'll be very happy with the Swedish weather because here it's cooled down a bit. It was about 48, 47 a couple of days. Now it's 41, 42, 43.
Yeah, so, almost winter.
Almost winter.
Yeah.
Time to stay indoors and do meetings, not go out and play.
Yeah, we realize it's well, you're used to hot temperatures, but I realize it's bigger issues that we won't discuss today, but it's quite important that we take care of them. But today we will talk about digital cash, India. So Joachim, tell us, why do we focus at India today? Even though I've understood that's the place to be, but give us your version. Why do we focus on India?
Well, from the perspective of this webinar series, we absolutely need to talk about India because that's where Crunchfish is focused. Our focus mainly is India. I think our second focus is Southeast Asia, and then I guess sort of the rest of the world, including Sweden. Then, but India is by far our biggest focus, and it's about time, I think, to give a broader perspective on where are we in India and what's going on in India, because it's really the hotbed right now for digital payments, and it's actually interesting to listen to that, to hear it from payment experts in India, like Vijay here, that will give a good feel for what is actually going on in India, because it is exciting.
Yeah, great. And as you said, Vijay, you will be the man giving the presentation. Just to tell us, you are the head of Crunchfish India. Can you just tell us about your department there?
Yeah, so basically, yeah, we are four of us who are doing business development based here in India, and in the process of setting up our Crunchfish entity, actually. So it's perfect timing for Joachim to be here. Yeah, a lot of exciting things going on. So
Yeah.
and I'll talk about that in my presentation.
Yeah, great. Well,
Uh,
look, so I'll just invite everyone to to please ask questions if you have any, because that's one of the things that's important for us. We need to, well, we would like to give you all the information, all the facts that you want. So please don't hesitate. Just ask the questions through the chat forum, and I will be glad to pass them on. And I have some on my own that I will throw at you after the presentation. So let's give it away, Vijay. What are your expectations, Gagan? Is a good presenter? Will it be good 20? Just give us a heads up. Is this the real deal?
Oh, absolutely. You'll really enjoy Vijay presenting. I think I think you're gonna have a great time today.
Yes, so just building the expectations.
We'll take a review later. You can I'll ask you that question after the presentation, Johan.
Oh well, I'm sure it will be magnificent. So let's go for it, Vijay. I'm very glad to have you with us this morning. So this is let's start now.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. I'm going to share my screen. I have a few slides that I'd like to present here. Can you guys see?
Yes.
Okay.
But we can also
Fantastic.
see that's the better. Great.
Yeah. Okay, so you asked that question, why India and why the focus for Crunchfish in India, and this slide probably talks about that. India is now, the biggest digital payments market. It overtook China about 2018, so it's now almost, and it's still growing at 40% per annum. And you can see this explosive growth that the Indian market has been going through over the last 15, I would say, or 16 years. So we initially, our payments were very basic, and the payment version 1 included cards and some real-time gross settlement solutions for business payments. That was what it was. And then 2010 is when internet and mobile banking for retail took off. And that created one of the first lots of increase in the digital payments. But I would say the big inflection point started when payment 3.0 in 2016 with the launch of UPI. I'll talk about UPI later, but it's a real-time payment settlement process that was launched, and that has actually made it a lot easier for multiple people in different kind of demographics, geography, etc., to adapt to digital payments. It's made digital payments a lot easier for many consumers. And that, along with QR codes based digital wallets, which many of the, the private payment service providers took to the market, that created the next lot. As you can see, there was a huge jump from 2016 onwards to where it was in 2020. But this is still just the starting point, because now as we get into payments 4.0, which is primarily driven by contactless payments, offline solutions, mass reach solutions, this is the growth you're going to see, which is going to go from 34 billion transactions, which was in 2020, to almost 548 billion in 2025. Just to give you a sense, last year, 2021, which is the financial year that just closed a couple of months back, we were at about 74 billion transactions. So this trajectory is already well on its way. And you can see that this is the kind of growth. And like I'm saying, already we are #1 in the world, and we haven't yet started this explosive growth that you're going to see in the next few years. Yeah. UPI, it accounts for more than 50%, and it actually varies between 50 and 60% month on month. It's a huge part, like I said, of what grew. If you just take the month of April, just 1 month stats, roughly about 59% is P2P payments, person to person, 49% is person to merchant payments, And we did 5.5 billion transactions in the month of April alone, with $130 billion in value, just UPI. But also the very interesting part here, if you see, 80% of UPI transactions in merchant side is below 500 rupees. 500 rupees is roughly about $7 or so. Yeah, and almost 50% is below this value of 200, which is, I would say, about $2.50. So small value transactions are really driving a lot of growth. People are adapting; they find it easy instead of exchanging cash and expecting some money back, etc. And this obviously is putting a hell of a lot of pressure on the banking infrastructure as it exists today, because it's been geared up for a certain kind of transactions and also a certain number of transactions, and they have been under pressure for the last couple of years to be able to deal with such a huge growth in the number of transactions which are hitting the banking system. So this 3% technical decline, this is April numbers. It was even higher in many months. It's gone on up to 12 to 15% in some months. So you can see the kind of pressure, and this is at our current state. And when we hit this kind of $548 billion growth, you can imagine the kind of pressure that it'll come in there. But interesting thing is, in spite of such growth, we are still nowhere close to where India can be. So just some stats on internet usage is that only 58% of our population still uses internet. So 52% don't use or don't have access to internet. Yeah, massive. 850 million people have smartphones out of 1.2 billion. There is still a lot of people don't have smartphones, but even those who have smartphones are not using it for data and internet today, or don't know how to do that. Digital payments, this is very interesting. Less than 10% of our population is actually actively using digital payments today, which means, you can see these numbers are based that we are seeing today is with just less than 10% of our population actually doing digital payments. You can imagine when this number grows, what it's going to do. And this is a big driver, right, of growth. And then also 30% of our point of sale, where people make purchases, only 30% of those actually have acceptance of any form of digital payment. So that's still very, very small. You can, so some of these tell you there's a lot of room for growth, right, as an ecosystem. So in terms of where is the future growth coming from, clearly enabling offline payments is one of the big drivers. 52% people who are not comfortable using digital payments will get to it when we make it easier, when we make it, not dependent on internet. So this is going to be a big driver. Merchant expansion, as I said, covering, all these points of sale, which today don't accept digital payments, and the continuing formalization of the economy. I mean, obviously that's a continuing process. Less and less people will be attracted to cash and more will switch to digital. And here are some use cases which are very big, where there is a lot of focused effort on growing digital payments. On transit and toll, already there's a lot of focus, but it remains one of the biggest spend categories in the retail payment side. Small shops and rural areas, like I said, this merchant network, consumers not having access. This is the segment which will get most impacted as we create offline payment opportunities for people. Government payments in terms of subsidies being given out by the government for the not so well-to-do people will obviously be digitized quite a bit, and that will drive a lot of digital payment adoption. But I guess the net, the big one which the whole industry knows and which will drive is contactless, offline, and mass reach solutions. I think in these three words, you can pretty much say that these three things will kind of enable the key challenges of India today and help drive the growth in the coming months. Yeah. So where does Crunchfish fit in? I mean, we have this beautiful Crunchfish digital cash solution that works across multiple things. I mean, if you look at this left column, yeah, there are all of these forms of payment. We have cards, we have instant payment solutions, the real-time payment solutions, There is CBDC and crypto, which is much in talk in terms of what central banks are planning to do around the world. And then there is cash, which obviously still remains big in India. All of these, obviously the card and the instant payments are all account-based payment solutions. Crypto, primarily as central banks are thinking about it, is token-based, but it has its limitations. Cash, of course, works. It doesn't work on a specific account. It's on its own value on its own. And then online and offline are the other two big dynamics. That cash obviously is completely online. All of these other payment instruments are primarily built around online solutions today, but enabling them for offline is what we as digital cash solution we want to enable. So the thing about digital cash, the big thing here is that we actually have a beautiful solution to which is account based, where we can actually transfer a certain amount of money in an offline mode to the from the payer to the payee in a very secure way. If I was to, in a nutshell, capture what digital cash is all about, that is what our solution is. So we have this ability to transfer an amount in an offline environment from one account to the payee's account in a very fully secure way without it being able to, I mean, the stuff like double spending, misuse, risk factors. I mean, there's a lot of ability to capture all that. And that can work across all of these rails, whether it is CBDC, instant payments, or cards. That's what Crunchfish Digital Cash Solution is all about, which makes us very excited about what we can enable. If I was to just cover what's different about what are the things which digital cash is very good about compared to, you know, the challenges that Indian payment ecosystem is having, and to the existing solutions which exist, you know, or people, what they are trying to do. The first thing is our solution works across any existing payment rail. So whether it's UPI that we spoke about, whether it's digital wallets, which is supposed to be, you know, it's due to grow quite a lot with things on transit, etc., which are becoming big, or existing credit cards or debit card payments, or CBDC, which central banks are trying to do. Our solution works across all of these. So it's one solution which anyone can implement to enable an offline payment on any of these payment rails. So that's the beauty. Most of the others are very rail specific, and then obviously it creates its own limitations. The other one is it ensures seamless payment. I think we are very proud of the fact that ours is probably the most seamless in terms of time it takes, in terms of the user experience. It's probably the easiest and simplest way of doing digital payments in an offline way. But as we speak to our payment service providers and banks, we also say that, hey, you can connect this into the rail so that it's not just offline, but you can even do digital payments in an online way much more smoothly, because, you know, it takes the load off your backend infrastructure when you get hit with so much of transactions. Yeah. So seamless payment, irrespective of whether you have internet or not, you have connectivity issues or not, you have load factors or not, this works all the time in a very nice way. So I think that's a very good part of our solution. And like I said, because it helps to balance load on the core banking system, it's a huge need in the banking, in the banking sector today, because that's what they are challenged with. And that what they will be challenged with even more down the line as digital payments scale up like the way we expect it to. And therefore, every bank is looking at how do we manage this, especially when it's small value transactions. You know, it's too much to impact a load on the banking system, and that's something we can definitely adapt. We can definitely help with. And then very adaptable solution, because we are a technology provider. We work with payment service providers, we work with banks, and they have to take care of risk and regulatory controls and regulatory requirements. So many of the issuers have their own perspectives on what they would like these controls to be, what kind of risk they're willing to take, what kind of user experience they want to do. So our solution is very adaptable. That's, you know, something we pride ourselves with. that we are able to configure the solution as is needed by any of these payment providers, and we can easily do that. And then the last bit, which I think, typically you would imagine that when you have such a solution, it might take a lot of technology work and implementation and bandwidth to be able to implement that solution. But ours is a simple SDK or an API connect that we can do that can easily help those payment service providers or banks to implement the solution, both on the acquiring side and on the issuing side. So that makes the solution very good. And these are some of the challenges, the advantages that we kind of present whenever we meet clients in India. And we are actually getting a very good response from them because of this. Obviously, given that this is such a big solution, we are not the first ones to try, right, to solve this. There have been multiple attempts to solve. Many things are going on in the market in terms of various kind of solutions being tried. Here are some of them which are more significant, I would say. But I mean, as we see it, they all have some limitations or the other, which is why they have not become, that rampant or been adapted that big. So the first one is, I'll just quickly go through these in a few minutes. The first one is what's called a National Common Mobility Card. This is basically for transit payments, and it's a stored value on card-based solution where you have a balance sitting on the card and you can just tap it onto it on a turnstile. This happens anywhere in the world, but in India, we had this, which are very, I would say closed loop today, in that each NCMC card works on its own network. Yeah, it could be one metro in Delhi using one card, another card being used for the metro in Mumbai, or offline or in a bus in Bangalore, etc. There is interoperability being worked on, but it's a journey. They have to still do that. There are other solutions like offline PIN authentication, which is basically just authenticate the payment on an offline mode, but then the actual payment is still online. So that's not really an offline solution. There is something that Visa is trying, which is on the wallet. There's an offline wallet created inside a EMB chip, which stores a small balance, which you can use, but this needs physical infrastructure, the change of POS terminals for this payment to work. And that has its own limitations of how expensive it will become to be able to implement that kind of a solution. So if you look at digital cash, we actually do this through digital apps. Yeah. So ours is a full offline solution. So you can actually top up the card and you can make the payments against digital apps in a very fast and seamless way. And we are actually, NCMC cards are anonymous in some sense, whereas ours is a debit to an account. Like I said, it's an account-based offline solution, which makes it a lot more palatable for the banks as well as regulators, because there's a proper risk management and accountability and traceability of the transactions as it exists. UPI Lite is a version that NPCI has launched a few months back, which is again an app-based wallet, which is stored in your device, and you can use that to make offline payments, and it supports small value transactions. Again, there are, in our case, like I said, we have the ability to do this across multiple rails because with the same similar implementation, and we are a full offline solution in that, you can actually transfer the offline balance and make payments P2P as well as P2M or into multiple devices on a full offline mode, which makes our solution much more wider and broader compared to what UPI Lite is envisaged at this point of time. There's other solutions which are based on sound or IVR, UPI 123 being one of them, which again NPCI has launched very recently. This works on feature phones and it's based on people making a call into an IVR number and then authorizing your transaction with your UPI PIN. And then it kind of makes the payment, it sends an SMS confirmation to the merchant and, and makes a settlement later. Or there is a sound-based authentication, which one of our partners is also doing with on feature phones. But again, the user experience, I mean, here, imagine you need to go make the transaction, get the amount, you have to make a call to a number, you need a mobile phone, you need a call. It's not a full offline in that sense, right? So you need a telecom network to be able to make that call into that, to be able to make that. So the user experience is not as great in this kind of a thing at this point of time, but it's again a thing which has just been tested and is being piloted in a small way right now as we speak. This other one is something called a SIM overlay solution, which is you again, you overlay, you put the user balance onto a SIM. So you have a user account and you use a SIM on a feature phone and you overlay a small value balance onto that and then use that balance to be able to make a payment using those feature phones. But again, it's, our solution can actually complement this even better in that you can actually load your SIM overlay using the Crunchfish technology, makes it a lot more seamless and better. And again, as we say, ours runs across, so you can use this for the SIM overlay on feature phone, but you can also use it in all the other scenarios which a merchant can implement. E-Rupee is one more. This is something for government. Government has just launched this few months back again to be able to pay subsidies on specific use cases. This was launched during COVID for people to pay for COVID vaccines. Yeah, that was the primary driver. And so it's basically a token that's issued online, sent to the user on an SMS, and then or a QR code, and then you use that to make a payment to a merchant on a specific merchant for that purpose only. It's a single use case, single one-time use kind of a token. So you pay that, and then you kind of use that. So it's got limitations in terms of what it can do, because obviously you have to pretty much do vouchers for every single use case. It's not a general purpose thing which can be easily used. And then the last one here, digital rupee, CBDC. This is India's form of CBDC. The government has announced that they're going to launch this next year by December of 2023. The exact details is still being worked out. So the Reserve Bank is still working on whether it should be account-based, it should be token-based, who's going to be the issuer, will it be commercial banks, will it be the central bank, who's going to distribute this, etc., etc. So a lot of unknowns on this one yet. But again, we believe that the solution that Digital Cash provides, which is account-based full offline solution for India, is a very good integration into the CBDC project to be able to make the digital rupee much more robust, and it works on existing account infrastructure as it exists today. So you don't need to, change the ecosystem so much as you can pretty much ride on the way it operates, along with the offline capability and the CBDC capabilities that we build on here. So yeah, so just a flavor of all these things, and you can see clearly Digital Cash has a lot of things. And the one thing we say is that we want to partner with all of these companies. So we are not in that sense competing. We want to complement and make many of these solutions more robust, more user-friendly, and much more easier to implement. And therefore, that's why actually when Gagan and me and our colleague Samar, Ram, when we go meet partners, we get a lot of airtime because people do want to listen, and we have some good traction going on. And here's my last slide. So where are we today with all of these beautiful solutions? So we have multiple conversations going on, but I would say we have a POC with one of the major payment service providers for offline payments with our partner ToneTag. This is a sound-based proximity solution provider. We are working with them. So the POC is underway right now, and then we hope to go to a pilot phase pretty soon, and then on to a full launch. We are also working with one on a POC and two on using RBI's regulatory sandbox for offline payments to for them to test out our solution and look at it and see how robust it is. They are very keen, and so yeah, we are very excited about this partnership. We are, there's a presentation on digital cash for non-mobile devices. This is a presentation which is going to happen next week. That's the reason Joachim's actually coming to India next week, because we have this very important presentation. We are, very gung-ho about it. RBI is, from the feedback we hear, very excited. So that's also going on next week. And then there is a payment accelerator program that we are working with T-Hub, which is one of the organizations which is creating infrastructure, which works at an ecosystem level. And so one of the things we are doing is to work with them on multiple things, CBDC plus other payment rails, and how do we create these accelerators by augmenting the payment solution. So that's something we are doing, and there's a launch event happening in Delhi on Monday at the Swedish embassy. Yeah, any of the attendees, please feel free to join us. That's at 4 p.m. And more details are available with Gagan and me. Yeah, numerous other customer and partner discussions going on. And then I think the last bit is that we are in the process of setting up our India entity. So I think kind of says, how committed we are to India. So it's the only other country after Sweden where Crunchfish will have a legal entity, kind of shows our focus and our commitment to make payments in India in here. So I think, yeah, that's it, Johan. That was my presentation. I don't know how much time I took, probably more than 15-20 minutes.
Oh,
I'll stop here.
Well, thank you so much. Well done, Vijay. That was definitely something very inspiring. I can definitely see the opportunities here, and how far you have taken this project. Great to hear it from you. I feel I can feel the special times in India when it comes to digital cash are really exciting to follow what will happen. So thank you. And I'm just curious, and what about these other solutions that you mentioned? How much do they look at your at Crunchfish? When you say hello, I'm from Crunchfish, how do they react?
Oh, very, very good. Like I said, I think there are many of these solutions which are still being tried. Just an example, Gagan was sharing this morning, just a little while earlier, of someone who's been trying to implement UPI Lite and the struggles they're going through. So, we clearly feel that the solution is much better, more comprehensive, easier to implement. And we are actually happy to complement many of these solutions. That's what it is. I mean, it's not a competing solution provider in that sense, right? We have some things which we can make many of these solutions become much better. I think that's why we get a lot of airtime. Yeah.
Are you regarded as the pole position holder? You're the front runner. Do they agree upon that?
Gagan, I would say at least see some. Yeah, I mean, clearly there is a lot of interest, and many feel that this solution is very good. But what happens is once these two pilots that we are looking to do with this major bank, and I think that will be what will give the confidence, because we know that when we do the first implementations, make it work and prove the concept, people gain the confidence. So clearly the story is very good. They can see how, the strength of the solution. They want to obviously implement it, test it, and then they will feel confident that, this is very good. So absolutely.
Well, very exciting, Vijay. Let's go to you, Joachim, and Gagan. What are your reflections? Starting with you, Gagan.
I think, the good part is there is a fair amount of visibility about Crunchfish in India. The regulators as well as the banks and the payment services are now very well aware about our capabilities and the products, which is why we get airtime easily with a lot of the ecosystem when we try to connect with them. I think that's very important, and it's kind of really helped us move forward. Some of the work that we are doing with, like Vijay mentioned, one of the leading banks, and some of the POCs that we are doing is also building confidence, in the players in the market, and I think that will really help us take a lot, much forward. To answer your previous question, we do have the pole position in offline payments in India. So if somebody thinks offline payments, I think they first think of Crunchfish.
Okay, great. Joachim, your reflections, listening to, you've been presenting here many Friday mornings, and now you're listening to Vijay. What are your reflections?
Well, I think, as you said, I think you can feel the energy, you can feel the excitement. I think when I saw this presentation before, Vijay presented it, but I think what strikes me is just that sheer growth that will come in this phase we're in. India is already the leading country in the world when it comes to digital payments. They did 34 billion as transactions in 2020, but looking at 540, and if you think of it, how much is that? That's sort of 1.5 billion transactions per day. Comparing to Sweden, that is, I think that's more than what Swish makes on a year. This is what India is contemplating in a few years only per day, which is just staggering in terms of volume. And I think what's also exciting is that this the idea that where will the growth come from? Well, a lot of small value transaction, and it sort of needs a paradigm shift into offline solutions, and we're working in that direction with that design shift, that you need to rethink digital payments. It cannot just be online payments anymore. You need to move to offline as well. And I think we've been beating down that track for a couple of years now, and I think it's ready for prime time. Talking to central banks, talking to major banks, talking to payment service providers, I think they realize that something needs to be done in order to cope. And I think Crunchfish has a really interesting solution to offer here. Yeah,
but talking about the usage and the growth. The numbers you gave us, Vijay, about the internet users, 658 million, 850 million smartphones, 130 million monthly active digital payment, and less than 10% of the population, and only 30% of merchants are accepting digital payments as well. There's plenty of opportunities here, but also we talk about the growth of smartphones. Okay, that's the developed market in many ways, but it's still making progress. And the internet connectivity, well, there's plenty of work been done in that area. Will offline payments really remain the main issue going forward, or could it be covered online? What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I think so. I think, as at least for the next decade or so, or even more, it's not just about connectivity, right? It's about the density of population in some areas. It's about those different scenarios where your connections drop. It's about people's consumer behavior to be able to navigate on the internet and do things. So there are multiple things which are going to take time to change over, the years. So making it a easy, seamless payment solution that works irrespective of internet or no, irrespective of the load on the banking system, I think that's a core need of payments which will always remain. Like you can keep saying cash, that is the beauty of cash, right? That it always works. And that is what digital cash is about. I mean, how do we enable digital payments to make it should work all the time, irrespective of these ecosystem things. So while internet will keep growing and all of that, it's going to take a long while because we are such a geographically complex country with so many places, density of population, etc., etc. We will never be a Sweden, to my mind, where you have good internet access everywhere for every person, right? So offline will always remain, to my mind, in the foreseeable future.
But if we well, let's just say we get global coverage with via satellites in the future. Let's say it will be breakthrough, and it will be the surface will be covered. Will that end the need for offline payments, or will it still be needed? Let's go to Gagan.
I think it's not just the connectivity. You must think about the latency that is there in payments, right? Like one can even in Delhi, when we try and use the network somewhere, there are places where one network works and another doesn't, right? So if I'm carrying a certain phone of a certain network, in that area, I may or may not be able to do a transaction, right? That's one. The other is, we are thinking more about offline payments like a problem statement. I also see it as an opportunity, right? Because the more we think about taking payments offline, the more we'll be able to bring down the latency of payment and make it easier and more user-friendly for each and every one of us to be able to do those payments, right? So that's where I see offline payments coming in. It's the future very clearly.
Yep, Joachim.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Gagan and Vijay, answer as well. I think it is simply not about just that. Well, let's provide connectivity everywhere. Then we've solved it. That's not the case, because there is also just think of the sheer load on the banking system. You can be online, Johan, but if the bank can't respond, already today there is sort of huge sort of load pressures on the banks, and you need to sort of think about how you should navigate there as well. The banks needs to be able to be offline as well and still be able to facilitate sort of payments, and that could be done either completely in an offline mode, that you're because if you separate the moment of transaction, the purchase moment, if you separate that from the actual settlement, if you can do that securely, then you take the load off. But that means a paradigm shift, that you are augmenting the current state of affairs, which is just online all the time, into something which take care. You get infinite load possibility if you can have offline as well. So this is a design shift that is not being taken out because you get sort of satellites all over the world. That's not going to cut it for, because you have many use cases. We're talking about transit. You need to pay very fast on buses who could be anywhere. You don't know if they have connectivity or anything, and you need to instantly be able to just load a bus or go onto the bus. And think of a petrol station where 500 motorcycles comes in for filling up their gas, and just seeing that today, I think they need to bring cash, but digital payment takes a long time, and it's I think there's so many cases where you need you need sort of to come up with a new way of facilitating payments, just like cash, but digitally, and that's what digital cash is all about.
Yeah, and the combination of offline and online, that might be the real case.
We're not saying it's offline. You absolutely need the back end for sure, but at the moment of payment, separate offline from online. I think that's the key message here. That's what we want to do. We're not taking away. We're not taking away online.
You're not switching off the internet. You're not doing that.
No. We still have the banking system. This is an account-based system, which sort of what we're doing essentially. If you think that there is the banking system, works really well, but we are bringing out as satellites containers where we can sort of make payments from. And then we can also establish trust in the network, so people could trust these payments when you are making them. But all that is infrastructure we build with our digital cash solution, that we establish trust, so we can do offline payments.
And I think actually the online system, the most important thing is that we can do these webinars. Actually, that's the offline. It wouldn't. No, that's so.
No,
I'm
it
very
will work
much
offline.
no. Okay. We have a question here from Timmy Erengård, and he asks if UPI already covers offline transactions. Have you noticed losing potential business to UPI, or do you see that as a risk? Who will go for that, Vijay?
Yeah, I can take a shot at that. Yeah, so UPI Lite is something which is not yet fully implemented. It's being tested. There are challenges with implementation, so it's not out there. And that solution is not robust as it is designed right now. We hear a lot of inputs from banking partners. So I don't think there is. We're going to think about UPI Lite as something which will take away business from us. As I see it, it's an opportunity for us to work with NPCI and make that UPI Lite even stronger by plugging in our solution somewhere into that. So I think it's more complementary, all of these solutions. I don't think they've solved it. If that was the question, that have they solved the offline thing on UPI? No. No, but then also remember that it's we are thinking about other payment rails too. It's not just about UPI, right? I mean, most people need a solution that can work across all the other payment rails as well. So,
I think a key point is that UPI Lite is semi-offline. The payer can be offline because they have some sort of balanced representation on their phone, but the merchant absolutely needs to be online. So it's not a full offline solution because all the security is still sitting online. What they've done is actually to isolate the core banking because these balances is sitting centrally with NPCI at the UPI switch. So the user can be offline, but the merchant needs to be online in order to go and check those balances. It's not that you really, we're saying you have a stored value on an app, but that value is something that needs to be verified with an online merchant. So it's a semi-offline solution that they have implemented. Still, it's not a bad solution, I would say, but I think if we're going to go really for full offline, I think that's what it doesn't do that UPI Lite.
So let's talk about the other. Thanks for the question, Timmy. So and if you have more and anyone else want to contribute, please do that. We have another almost 15 minutes left here. So let's talk about the other solutions. And I realize Crunchfish, your solution is the best, but do they agree, or should I say no? You have a poor solution. What's the if you what does the market say when they're comparing these solutions? Gagan?
So I think the market is very positive about the Crunchfish solution. I will not say the other solutions are bad. I think each solution has its own place. For instance, we spoke about e-rupee, right? That is actually being used for a very different use case. It's being used for disbursing direct benefit transfers to the poor and the the marginalized people in India, right? So in such situations, that works perfectly, right? Having said that, the use case, I would say it's all about adoption, right? So if you were to look at the Crunchfish solution versus the others, I would say it would be the user experience, the low latency, and the fact that it caters to almost every requirement of both the customer, the merchant, and the banking partner, right? That it is probably superior than the others. That's where I believe why we are getting support from banking partners, and we are getting there here as well.
So what I can hear from you is that there's room for many players, or is it the winner takes it all situation here?
So look at the Indian market, right? There were other solutions also from a payment perspective, but it took the UPI to kind of make real-time payments, so ubiquitous, right? So there will always be one player who will, get the customers fancy. be able to provide that user experience, which kind of makes it, very easy to use, right? And that's, I believe, clearly Crunchfish has that opportunity.
Yeah, and what are the market share you are aiming for in India, Vijay?
Well, I would say that if we were to talk about these 4 or 5 big payment players and these top 5 or 6 banks in India who process almost 80% of the transactions today, and if they were to use our solution, then that's a share we will have, right? Because we are a technology provider to many of these companies. So if we become that, then we are talking about a Crunchfish being used in 80% of transactions. So I think for us, it's the focus is to get these big players, get them to test it, implement it. But to the point of what Gagan was mentioning earlier, there's an adoption. There's a time it will take for this to be adopted and accepted, and for users to get comfortable with it, etc. I also do think that there will be multiple players here. The backbone may be different. There may be different solutions which are better for different scenarios. So because the market is so big, there will always be room to try multiple things.
What about the big companies, Apple, Google, Amazon? Are they moving more into this area? Gagan?
Yeah, I mean, sorry, was that for me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Apple is a very fringe player in India, not much at all. But Google and Amazon, yeah, for sure, they are pretty big on payments. They have, payment. They are big. I mean, Google is one of the biggest UPI players, by the way. So the Google Pay app is used. It's number 2 right now on UPI, and they do have plans to expand that for sure. But there are Amazon is small, but because they have such a big e-commerce thing, and they have they have this whole team called Off Amazon Payments, which is focused on growing Amazon Pay beyond Amazon. And so that is the team we are working with and all that as well. So they have big plans for India, but there are many players who are local who are going to be big. So it's not just these global players, I would say.
Okay, thank you. We have a question here from Johan Klingberg, and he writes, has the solution for quantum attack been discussed with the banks, and have this been a concern for them? Who will go for that?
I can take that. I know that this is more the fact that we developed this idea is more coming from us from product research perspective. I think this is an area with to be quantum resilient with these much faster computers that potentially will crack the current security paradigm that is implemented in digital payments. I think we understood how we actually could implement it with our offline payments. So that's why we took a file for a patent on how to do a quantum resilient solution for offline payments, as we are strong in offline payments, but it hasn't been that banks has asked us. We have heard it though from conversations with central banks who have a more of an even longer perspective on the future. We've heard that it's going to be important to think about quantum proof as well. So we've seen it in some of their requests for proposals that they put up, and so I'm glad that we have started to address it, and we have an idea of how to solve it with making digital cash resilient to that. But it hasn't been driven by Indian banks. It hasn't.
So talking about banks here, thank you, Johan, for that question. How difficult is it for a bank to implement the Crunchfish solution? Where are the problems for them? Gagan, you want to try?
So it's not so much about the problems. I think every bank has to adhere to a certain regulatory framework. they must ensure that any solutions that they implement passes the adequate audits and the compliance checks before even kind of thinking about a POC at their end. I think that's that's where the POCs that we are aiming for with some of the larger banks will really help us, because their inspection of our solution will ensure that we are past those regulatory checks and compliance checks, right? So that itself takes a bit of time, right? But once you're past that, I think it makes your solution that much more acceptable to the larger ecosystem, right? And if you have the strength of, let's say, a large bank and maybe the RBI behind you, I think it makes your solution that much more easily acceptable.
And you will have many of these important meetings, quite soon, I realize. So just give me the feeling of being the persons in charge in the bank. How eager are they? What kind of, how attractive is it for a bank to choose your particular solution? What are they feeling, you believe, Vijay?
Oh, very excited. I think the solution, like I said, I mean, some of these ones that we are working at, we are very close to start. I mean, with one player, there's a POC going on. With another one, there's, they're very close to starting one. There is a lot of excitement. They are very keen to test. Obviously, there's a lot of things to do before you start a POC in the payment space, and there's even the tech work that we need to also finish, etc. But very keen. And next week when Joachim is here, we are meeting all of these players. We can't even cover all the people who are interested right now, so it's just few that we're going to talk to. So
you could put Joachim on a balcony. He can just be waving to all the people. That's my way of the solution. What do you think? Hello.
All these.
So sweating. Oh, it's not the heat in Sweden. So do you have a nickname? Oh, the digital cash Swede, or he hasn't a nickname?
Yeah, the offline man.
the offline man.
Offline man.
That's a good one. Okay, so final question for you here. When do you expect the first pilot transactions to start for Crunchfish in India? What are your dreams, your thoughts? Let's go with the Gagan.
I think I would love for it to start in the next 2-3 months, but I think for the larger banks it may take a little bit more time. But I'm hopeful that with one of the payment services it could start sooner.
Okay, great. And the Vijay, what's your
idea? I would say the same. Q3 is when we are aiming to start the first pilot with the first customer. So, which is that's where they have kind of given us the time frame. It's come from the payment service provider. So that's when we expect to do our first digital cash transaction in India. I would, fingers crossed, everything goes well and we start then.
Yeah, Joachim, do you agree?
I think sort of. I think we're getting conscious that things are taking time, and I think we are working with very big players. But we are aiming for Q3, Q4. That's what we are aiming for. So it is exciting. I think we are in the right conversations at the moment, even up to the level of the central bank.
You're talking about me now?
No, not you, Johan. Okay, but I think in India, I think we are in, and we're going to have a lot of good conversations. I think with major players, and I think it's and because I think what drives them is that they obviously have access to these forecasts about the future, and they need to innovate. And I think here we're coming with a solution which fits that sort of it's an innovative solution that sort of fits that that's I think why they are keen, that how are we going to address this massive growth? How are we going to be a relevant player? And I think we are a good idea for that.
Yeah, I realized it will be very fascinating times the next coming months. So I will be glad to follow that. It's almost 9 o'clock. So this will be the upcoming webinars, May 27th.
Yeah, I'm in India that day actually, but the presentation will be given by our chairman. It's about the governance of Crunchfish, talking a little bit about his philosophy about corporate governance. It's an interesting one. I really would recommend to listen to that one. We'll have Susanne Hannestad, one of our board members, as a panelist, and I hope to make it. That's depending on this schedule as being, changing every day for India. But it's on, as you know.
Yeah, but it'd just be great to hear you talking about the weather and about the waving at the balcony and stuff like that.
No, I love to join if I can, but it depends on what the schedule are. There might be things at the same time.
Look at Vijay and Gagan. They take the time. They're not that busy. Come on, Joachim.
I know. But I also know that VJ is trying to squeeze in as much as we can during this week. Yeah. We'll talk about digital cash again. As we know, every second one is digital cash. It will be the use cases. We'll go through them a little bit, which I think is haven't really been covered. June 10th, we will talk about the patterns we have in the area of gestures. We'll have Malin Ahlgren there from the Ström Gulliksson. I haven't got that confirmed yet, but her boss thinks that she should be there, so I really hope so. And then June 17th, we hope to have a customer presentation there on that one. It's not confirmed yet, but that's what we're hoping for, to have someone who wants to a little bit here be showing that how they think about digital cash. But it's not confirmed yet, but that's what we are aiming for at the June 17th.
Great. So looking forward to that, and I'm very glad for this presentation today. Well done, Vijay. Very inspiring to get a grip of the possibilities in India. And if you make it in India, you will make it anywhere, I believe. So it's it will be great to follow. And thanks for wise, complimentary comments, Gagan and Joachim. Also, thank you so much. So, are you satisfied, Vijay?
I am, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm excited, more than satisfied. Excited about the coming weeks.
Yeah, and Gagan, do you think Vijay on a five scale level? Was it a 5 or 4? Or what do you think?
so he's my boss, right?
Yeah. So great. High five for that. So and we talked a couple of weeks ago, which you told us all about. We talked about Holly. And actually, I'm going into our version of Holly today, because in my hometown Lund, we have the student carnival. It starts today, and they're crazy times every 4th year. So it's this will be the weekend for silliness.
Oh, lovely.
And then I will come back to this sincere, this very not that silly type of man. I will be very sincere and serious as always. So thank you for participating today. I hope you enjoyed, everyone watching this. And if you want some more about see more of these webinars, there's plenty of them on the webpage, aren't there, Joachim?
Yes, everything is on the webpage, and we will publish a press release on this one as well quite soon. So it's all coming out. Absolutely.
Okay, so have a good weekend and a good trip to you, Joachim. I will hear it all, and take good care of Joachim.
We will.
Great, and we will. I will be glad to hear all the stories and take pictures. I want to see the pictures.
Yeah.
And the clips.
We'll document it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, everyone. Well done.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.